And Sam, tell us where you are
Yeah,
and what
thanks,
do you have
Yaro.
going on today, man? Thank you for being here.
No, thanks so much, man. So yeah, I'm currently in Edinburgh, and Yaro's been incredibly accommodating of me because I'm in between two things as well. I'm about to wrap up my work day and I'm about to pick up my daughter from school. So that's why Yaro's meeting in a car and I'm meeting in an office. Uh, it's all good though, and yeah, Edinburgh, Scotland, not LA. It's about 1 degree Celsius here, which
Oh,
is something in Fahrenheit. Don't really know how that works. But it's all good, man. And yeah, Yarrow and I have been trying to link this up for about a month now.
yeah.
So just really excited to be here and to chat to you about whatever you want to talk about, man.
Yeah. Well, one thing real quick, it's interesting. You're in Edinburgh. I actually went to Glasgow University for about a year. So not too far from where you are right now. After my studies over here in the United States, I decided to take a year abroad and I went to Glasgow University.
Wow.
I had a great time. So I know exactly what the weather is like right now for you. And you're in a amazing place. I love Edinburgh. I love Glasgow, Scotland. So beautiful, excellent. See, we have more things in common than we think.
No, very
uh,
much.
but one thing that definitely brought us together is this whole conversation around AI. You have an amazing newsletter. You're putting out a lot of great content. Your numbers are growing so rapidly, man. Congratulations. Every time I go to your page, it's like 1,000 more, 1,000 more, 1,000 more. And the engagement just continues to grow. So congrats on that. So can you tell us what is a slow AI? What are you working on, and what's your vision with this newsletter, this platform that you're putting together, and all the information you're providing us?
No, of course. And like great to see so many people in the chat I recognize as well, like old friends new. Hiya Josh, hiya Giles, hi Alex. Giles, thanks for converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. That classical education coming in well again, Giles. Hi Rebecca, hi Juka. So yeah, slow AI man. Basically, so I'm a full professor, and my work looks at, I guess, the intersections of AI and student belonging and communities. And for the past couple of decades now, my broader work has been around how we can diversify and democratize science. Science is traditionally being done by people that look like me, white, middle class men. And it should be more than that, not just as a box ticking exercise, but because if we want to have actual solutions to global interdisciplinary problems, we need to have global interdisciplinary people working on those problems as well. So a lot of my work is grounded in community building and trying to help platform the voices of marginalized communities. So when AI came along, I was like, oh, cool. This is like a really interesting tool to play with. But it became really immediate to me pretty soon on that this is a tool with great potential, but also with a lot of potential issues, not just in terms of the things that we read about a lot with regards to privacy and security and hallucinations and bias, but also one of the biggest issues I see is around the digital divide. So this concept, especially in education, man, where we see there's like rich kids are able to get access to pro licenses, high speed internet, like multiple laptops, whereas those kids that aren't as affluent don't have access to any of those. So there's this huge digital divide that's been exacerbated by AI. On top of which, a lot of people, especially young people, haven't really learned how to critically think yet. And I don't mean that patronizingly. I just mean this is a skill set that you have to learn. So for me and you, who've got, decades of education behind us, it's relatively straightforward to look at the output of AI and say, well, that's ridiculous, or that doesn't make any sense. Whereas a lot of people don't have that. So with slow AI, that's what we've been trying to do, to try to create this platform that doesn't say AI's going to end the world. It doesn't say AI is going to save the world. Instead, what it says is, look, AI is this really powerful tool that has some serious opportunities as well as challenges. And let's create a platform where we can engage in dialogue to explore that. And then just one final point. I think, especially the zip code you're calling from, there's so many issues with polarization at the moment. And people just want to stand on this side of the argument or on this side of the argument, with no opportunity for discussion. And, you know, I follow your work as well, man. I'm a huge fan. And I see from the lives that you have in your comments as well, you know, it's demonstrative of the fact that Substack can be this really powerful platform for dialogue. And look, I can disagree with you, you can disagree with me, but we can do it in a polite and you know, effective manner. And so that for me is what slow AI is all about. It's about slowing down, stopping being obsessed with the output of AI, and instead thinking about how to critically assess how to use it, why we use it, and the kind of people who are being left behind by that use. That was an insanely long answer to your question, man. Sorry.
No, that is an amazing answer, and obviously, what you're proposing, what you're trying to accomplish, is very well needed. Um, I can relate in many different aspects. My wife, she works at a high school here in LA, and she has students from different backgrounds, and you can see just by going to school who obviously has more access to certain devices, certain technology, and is utilizing it more. And also parents, they matter a lot. So you have, unfortunately, parents that have to work, I don't know, 18 hours a day, so they're never home. And when they're home, they're exhausted, right? They're left to their own devices, so the kids have no guidance outside school. So that great divide that you're talking about continues to grow. The gap continues to increase, and it's quite dangerous, I believe, because then we're gonna have, if right now we live in a society where there is basically no middle class, that's just gonna become larger and larger. And also the people who can control this technology and have access to this technology can actually tweak the technology, right, to make it work for themselves, disregarding the other side of the population. So that's one side that I can definitely relate to. I see it in high school students here. I have kids. I guess at least in that particular sense, I try to stay on top of them. I don't let them to be in front of devices for too long. I don't want them to be in front of the screen too long, but I try to explain what the technology is and what it's for and how you can utilize it correctly. If I know, maybe maybe I'm wrong as well, right? We don't know. This is moving way too fast to know if we're really approaching this correctly. But at least we try to stay educated, right, and provide good information. And maybe staying away as a for kids is better than trying to jump in and not know where what you're doing with this technology, which is quite life changing. And another one, I'm a member of a nonprofit organization that is called Latinx, Latinos in AI, like Latinos in AI,
Oh,
and that's
great.
exactly what we do. So we go to NeurIPS, we go to ICML, we go to the largest AI conferences in the world, and we provide a platform for these disadvantaged students to be able to present their papers and their research, a platform that otherwise they will not have. So when you go to these larger conferences, talking about like 8,000, 10,000 people that work for the Googles, for the Metas, Anthropics, you name it, right? And they present obviously what they're working on, their research, their papers, and a lot of the disadvantaged, students, communities, they don't have access to this type of conferences. So we try to provide that. So let's definitely continue this conversation. Maybe not right now, but it'll be interesting to hear what you're doing with your students, right, and what we're doing on our end
Oh, for
to
sure.
help more people. So thank you for telling us what a slow AI is. What kind of research have you been doing lately? What kind of work? What kind of reading? Tell us what you've been learning. Share with us, please, Sam.
No, definitely. And I just want to give a shout out to like a couple of amazing Substackers. One's called Modern Mum's Playbook, and the other is the Digital Parent in Weekly. And both of these Substacks do amazing work in helping us understand how to have dialogue with our students and children around AI. And, I'd really recommend everyone subscribing to them. They're amazing. And
All right.
I get a lot of my learning from the Substack at the moment. But what they talk about is exactly this, that we don't know the answers yet, but we also can't rely on legislation to take precedence, right? Because there's people lobbying in Parliament, there's people lobbying in the Senate, like there's people lobbying everywhere for for the benefit of big tech. So what we need to do instead is we need to not prohibit it, because we know what happens to prohibition, right? Instead, we need to have these conversations with our kids, like with sex ed. Like we need to have difficult conversations with our kids and our students to say, this is what AI is. I know you're going to use it, but these are what the safeguards are. These are what the barriers are. And, kind of like we didn't have that conversation with social media, and we see exactly the problems that that's having now in society. We need to make sure we have that with AI. The second point, just to return to your comment as well, Yaro, is the work you're doing with Latinx is amazing. And like we can follow up after this, but I would like to offer like one free scholarship to my paid subscription to somebody in that community.
All right.
So if you ping me later, we'll work out how that works. But we've just launched this year-long curriculum on critical AI literacy, which is free for all paid subscribers of Slow AI. But I don't want that to be a barrier for people who don't have access to funds. So I will happily sponsor at least one person from your community for a year's subscription because
Thank
it's
you very
really
much.
important. No, man, like the work you're doing is amazing. So it's really important to think about how to support that. In terms of the research that I'm doing, like, dude, it's so exciting, right? I've got a book out tomorrow on AI. Yes, perfect timing. You didn't even know this. On how to use AI in higher education.
Okay.
It's published with Bloomsbury, so me and J.K. Rowling are now have shared publishers, which is pretty cool. And it's open access, so it's completely free. I'll send you a link.
All right.
But I'm gonna do a post about it tomorrow, and that's basically about how you can use AI in higher education.
Oh, that's
The
amazing.
other research that I'm doing is we basically surveyed. We've completed the largest qualitative survey of UK university students on their AI use. So we've got detailed survey responses for 7,500 students across England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And we're basically looking at how they're using AI. And it's super interesting, man. Like the two key takeaways are one, students are using AI and they don't feel as though they have the support from their universities to do so effectively.
Mhm.
And secondly, students are really worried about the justice element of AI. So by that, I mean, if your professor says no AI allowed in this assessment, how do they know that they won't be penalized, whereas someone else will be? So that's really interesting, man. And like, again, I know as a fact that this is going to have a detrimental effect on certain communities. So, a really good example is people from Nigeria. So we know that a lot of the large language models, especially like ChatGPT, had a human training component in Africa, a large part of which was in Nigeria. And Nigerians speak business English, which uses certain words like delve, like dive, like grounded. And these are words that, because they're used by the people that contributed this training set. And again, we can have another discussion about Black peoples being used as computers throughout history, which is another discussion. But because they were used for these training sets, when we hear these words, that's part of the system. And then yet when these people within Nigeria and other communities that use business English start to use language that they're used to, they're now accused of using AI. So there's this horrible system, man, of persecution that we need to better identify. And it's really important people understand how those languages came in. So when people say to me, don't use these words, don't use these phrases, like, you should push back at that, because there's an element of imperialism and colonialism in there that's really important. So that's quite deep, but I think it's just really important to think about that. And they're the key areas of research that we're looking at. Again, how students are using AI and really stopping or trying to stop professors from catching out students and instead just having this dialogue with them. Like, and again, it's all about the commodification of education, but that's the work we're doing at the moment.
That is amazing. Actually, last November at New Ribs, I saw this Nigerian lady presenting a research paper on how to train a large language model on Igbo and other African languages, because we're talking about these advantages. So it starts right there, right? Like it starts on the language. Obviously, English is the number one language when it comes to large language models, followed by the other languages that are mostly spoken around the world. But now you have a lot of small communities or smaller countries where they really are being left behind because their language is not represented in these large language models. So it was amazing to listen to this lady, young student, very smart, presenting a paper on how to start training all these models in many different languages. And we're talking about thousands of languages. So from the very start, they're already behind, right? Uh, we're not even talking in this situation. We're not even talking about access or devices or how to use AI properly. It's like the language is not even their language is not even represented. So that's amazing. Another thing that I was thinking is how AI and these models are changing the way we communicate, how it's shaping us, right? Because now, if you talk about, the four C's, right? Everybody talking about, now with AI, you have to concentrate on the four C's, which is communication, creativity, critical thinking, and cooperation. Allegedly, these are going to be the main skills to have, since computers are pretty much going to do everything we do on a device. Um, but if communication is being shaped by a computer, how do we stay on top and how we create great communicators? That's one question. And another one is that, like, how do you, like, for example, I read a very good article that I read that said something about, you're not going to stop students from using the technology, right? They're going to find ways to use it and not get cut, right? And the technology is getting so much better that you don't want professors spending a lot of time trying to find out if that paper was written by AI. So I remember I saw this post saying what maybe some professors could do is like, this is the question, this is the essay you got to write, use AI, and then tell me why AI was wrong. So now you gotta use it and then you gotta read it and then you start thinking what the output is and if the output is correct. I thought it was a good strategy, but it takes me to like what kind of strategies can we adopt today, not only for students but for everybody to really remain critical thinkers, because we start losing it, right? If you don't move your body, if you don't move your brain, you start losing it. Like and that's my question for you as a professor, like are there any strategies that you can share with us that we can utilize for ourselves, for our kids if we're parents, and for us, our students if we're teachers?
Yeah, sure. So starting with communication, I think one of the key things we need to do is to make sure that we're not just involving AI specialists and engineers in the conversation. So, I know the strategic linguist Rebecca Wicker's on this call, but it's really important that we remember that there's the large language models. So why aren't we also involving linguistic experts, language experts in that discussion? And alongside that as well, people with ethics experts, people with bioethics experts. These are people that we need to be involving in the conversation and that need to be in these roundtables. Secondly, in terms of critical thinking, I think this is what universities and education should be going back to. As you were saying, like it's not that we don't need to teach people computer skills. Of course we do. But these soft skills, and it makes me laugh, right? Because people have always called them soft skills. I think they're going to be absolutely critical for the next 5 to 10 years. And I like to think of them as soft skills now, but soft because like the flesh, right? Like we're soft. Well, I don't know. I'm soft around the midsection, but we're soft, and so they're the soft skills that we need to develop, like that element of humanity. And key to all of that is judgment. So we can't outsource judgment and we can't outsource agency. The example you gave was a really good one. I use that with my students as well. I kind of say, look, here's the marking rubric, here's a AI generated assessment, and can you market the rubric and tell me what's gone wrong or what's gone right? But I also think we need to put the onus back on the educators as well, because you need to ask yourself, like, why are students using AI for this assessment? Is it because they're bored by the assessment? Is it because the assessment has no grounding in the real world? Is it because they have caring responsibilities and the cost of living crisis means they've got to work a 40-hour week, like as well as their education? We need to take a step back and have that conversation with our students. And then as educators, we also need to think to ourselves, how can I make my assessment not hackable by AI? And I feel, Yaro, that you are literally my publicist, because I'm in the middle of designing a diagnostic at the moment for how educators can do that exact thing, which I can share with you and other people as well. But the idea is basically you kind of plug in your assessment for a module, and then this tool that I've been working on tells you, well, this element here could easily be replicated by an AI, or this element here couldn't be. So I think to answer your question, the onus is to go back onto the educator to think about designing assessments that facilitate critical thinking and which allow for the needs of the individual rather than assuming what the educator thinks is something that's pedagogically important.
Yeah, wow, that is great. I mean, it leads me to think so many different things. Number one, when it comes to your statement of we have to include linguistics and many other specialists when we create these large language models, not only engineers, not only coders, is very, very important. And it's not happening, but it's kind of reflecting what is happening in government in certain nations where I don't know, at least over here, it's mainly lawyers, right? We don't have a diverse government body that can make diverse decisions with a more broad sound, uh, you know, kind of like conversation and feedback. It's lawyers that went to school for the same thing, that have just capitalism and money in their mind, right? And that's what it seems to be going on in these very large tech companies where everything is being driven by just profit, right? And it's kind of it's very dangerous in the sense that since 2022 when ChatGPT came out, right? Like it became like a whole carnival, and now everybody's just rushing to deploy models. And a lot of these models are not up to par. They're not secure. They're not safe. We're seeing some insane things out there, right? Uh, but the party is not stopping it. It's not going to stop. So yeah, there's definitely to be more diversity in these companies and in the government too. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but it's good to have the conversation and at least share that. Um, but I mean, another thing that you were saying is like, yeah, are students really getting assignments that make them think? Some assignments that really they're excited about. I mean, are they bored, as you were mentioning? Uh, but another thing also is, I mean, where are we gonna be in 5 years? Where are we gonna be in 10 years? Maybe for students, it's like everybody's gonna be using AI. Why don't you want me to use it now, right? Like it's like you telling me not to use a computer. I don't know, 20 years ago, everybody's gonna be using a computer. Like, Shouldn't we be training to become better at AI since everybody's going to be using AI? Actually, maybe AI is just gonna use AI, and it's gonna be a bunch of agents communicating with each other and doing all the work, and nobody's gonna be reading, nobody's gonna be writing. I mean, who knows, right? Like we can talk about on 1984 and all these different sci-fi books, but the reality is that this technology is not going to stop. So where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years? And yeah, like I mean, are these you know jobs going to be needed? What do you think? I mean, as a college professor, like yeah, like these different careers,
No, it's
accountants.
a
I mean,
good
are we going to need accountants really? What's going to happen here?
I mean, it's a great question, and like the honest answer is I don't know, and I think
Yeah,
that that's the biggest problem about talking about
right.
AI in the classroom, right? So I don't want to like I'm sure there's other professors on this call, and I don't want to wipe out an entire institute, but honestly, higher education in the past 20, 30 years in Europe, in America, in the West in general has been nosediving, and it's we're stuck in the past, right? It's like we're in some kind of like Jacobean monastery where I've got these illuminated manuscripts and you are my vessel for my information. And if I deign to bestow that upon you, you should feel incredibly grateful for it. And that's ridiculous. Like learning should be about this co-creative experience where you know something, I know something, and we find out together. And a lot of educators haven't. They're like the career politicians you're talking about, right? They've been in education for their entire life. They only know that. And when you try to break down that hierarchy, they feel uncomfortable. Whereas what I always try to do is to just say, look, I don't know. I just don't know. But let's find out together. And isn't that going to be really interesting to find out together? And when you do that, it kind of breaks down this, I don't know, these like hierarchies of intent and
Yeah,
instead creates this collaborative learning experience that is essential. And that's the way that education should be going. In terms of like I mean, jobs always cycle, right? Like jobs will change.
right.
Even things like prompt engineering, right? Like 18 months ago, people were like, prompt engineering is going to be the thing.
Right.
I don't think it is, man. Like, I think there's some good guides out there, but I think a lot of it's just like peddling like a Ponzi scheme to some extent. And
and
yeah, it goes back to, sorry, yeah,
sorry.
no, you
Oh
go,
no,
man, you
I'm
go.
saying like going back to prompt engineering. Sorry to interrupt. Is mainly communication number one, right? Like if you can communicate with a device at a higher level, you will get higher outputs. But at the end of the day, a computer will be able to prompt itself. So you're not gonna really have to be an engineer, which is unfortunately. But yeah, you're right. Like it's more like a scam. This is my course. It's $5, and you become a prompt engineer, and you're gonna make $200,000 doing this. But the computer is going to be able to prompt. That's what it does, right? It's just becoming better at prompting, and it's going to prompt itself to create things on the fly.
Exactly, man. But those soft skills, like especially critical thinking, judgment, agency, that's what's key. That's what's gonna, those skills are gonna be useful for everything. I mean, the other thing that really annoys me is like, especially CEOs being like, we're just gonna turn everything over to AI. And it's like, dude, you're paid like six-figure salaries to have decision, and you are turning that agency over to a machine. Like, why are you doing that? Like, you need to take that agency, you need to have that decision, you need to make those skills and make that thing. So a lot, my honest answer to a lot of the questions around AI is honestly don't know. Like, it's such a rapidly evolving area, but it's super exciting. And like for me, I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to better understand what it means to be human. So like just I guess a, a slightly related point is there's a lot of chat at the moment around like AI and AI agents displaying elements of empathy, right? And like areas about, we've just had a post out about like, can AI be your friend? Of course it can't, because it can't hold a relationship with you in a meaningful sense. It can't create friction. But we also know that lots of people are suffering from grief when their AI personas change. But all of this for me is telling me that we are in a global situation where humans desperately need contact with other humans. And that's what we need. And I read an amazing post last night in The Guardian, um, that basically says that AI chatbots are really good at active listening, because what they do is they listen. They don't plan like the next thing they're going to say when they're having the conversation. They just listen. And even though chatbots can't be your friend, I think we can learn from the interactions we have with them in terms of how we can better mirror ideal human behaviors.
Yeah. Isn't that wow? That is amazing because I guess that's one of the things that we have lost as humans. We're not listeners. We're just prepared to say what we think, and sometimes we're not even listening to the question or to the information that is being given to us by the other person that we're having a conversation with. And now you have these models where that's what they have to do to provide an answer. They have to listen. They actually have to listen and then take it and then give you an answer. So as a human that feels lonely and that nobody listens to him or her right now, you have this device that all of a sudden, oh my god, you understand me. And that can be, it can turn into something quite detrimental if we only have AI friends or AI companions, which is an industry that is growing exponentially for the same reason. And then you add robotics to it, so maybe you will have an AI friend that has a body and is, your companion, your physical companion, and can go on walks with you and live with you at home. It's out of control. It's something that we have to be aware of. We have to know where this is going, and we have to also tell our kids, and in your case, your
Oh, for
students.
sure, man. And it's like, and it's not to throw shade on people that want those relationship with chatbots. It's rather to think about, we're in an incredibly damaged society if people feel that they want to turn to a chatbot for the empathy and human connection and active listening that they can't get from other humans. And that, like that, we started this conversation by asking what slow AI is about, right? That's what it's about, really. It's about using AI to, how can we use it in a way that we can free up time to make connections with other humans and experience what it means to live. That's what it's about, man.
Great. Okay. Sam, thank you very much. We have to do this again. There has to be a part two. There's a lot of things to talk about because of time. we're gonna stop right here. But I mean, thank you very much for taking the time to have this conversation. We've been planning this for quite a while. We're gonna slice this, put it on our respective platforms, channels, so you guys can, comment and share and tell us what you think about it. And hopefully next time around, we can have more time and we can have more people join us and just continue this. I think this is definitely, this is a vehicle for all of us to ask questions and learn a little bit about what's going on because nobody knows what's happening. But everybody knows a little bit or at least have an experience of how this is shaping our lives and we can come together and share and learn. When it comes to universities, I mean, I have this conversation with my wife, which is a college counselor. It's like, universities, they have to package the information, right? They have to get the information, they have to package information, they have to create a curriculum, and they have to put it out there. And the way technology is moving, they don't have time for that. By the time everything is packaged and ready to create a career out of it, he has already moved into a complete different things. So these type of conversations, I think, help a lot. Thank you very much, Sam.
Thanks,
Thank you for
man.
your time.
Appreciate
It's
it.
amazing what you're doing. I'm waiting for your book. Send me the link so I can share your book as well. And we'll talk about the scholarship that you will provide to
Yeah,
the
man. You
programs.
hold me to that as well. Thanks, Yaro.
Thank,
Stay safe, man.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, man.